All right, everyone, welcome to round seven. We have Nicka Josbin going against Joseph. Pass fine. Welcome back. Are you excited for this matchup?
Very, very excited. I'm very, very excited for this game. And I hope everyone is ready to watch the game as well. Thank you, Estelle. You've been doing a wonderful job so far. And it's nice to have you here also. We're watching Nicka Josbin and Estelle,
Okay,
please could you help with the other person?
if that's Joseph, not sure how to pronounce. That's Joseph, the highest rated player in Liberia right now.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice to know. And in this tournament, Josbin Nika is a 33rd rated player in this tournament. Is that Lee Joseph?
No, that's Gegeh.
Hello,
I'm not
Estelle. Are you
sure if there are any Liberians in the chat. If there are any Liberians in the chat, I'm sorry if butchering his second name, but that's Joseph Gegeh. Not sure how to pronounce that. All right, seems we are having a bit of technical issues there. We would have it sorted in a bit. But so far, we saw Nika start with QI, then Joseph playing typed, then Nika replying with DONEE, and now GOOR is the move from Joseph, and it's back to Nika with a rack of OWIEEIK. Are seeing really, really fast plays from both players. IWI coming down for 34 points, retaining the K, which can still do some damage later on. And we're seeing the first blank of the day on Joseph's rack alongside very synergic tiles. FOXARS blank is what he has on this turn, and maybe it would want to go for OX here, retaining FARS. That seems pretty solid, and it opens up this spot for an eventual bingo if the tiles align. Instead of that, I'm not sure what other options they might consider. Okay, we see him going for S or X instead, still keeping things really, really close on this board.
Oh,
And now
okay.
it's back to
I think he's
Nika. Okay, I think Passfine is here now.
yeah, yeah, thank you. Um But I don't see anything it should do be given his rank. But Key is also good. But I see Atok for 29 points instead of Key for 20 points for him. Atok under the, is in my interest. So many persons doesn't know that that God takes an O. That's the extension. You have GO, God, gods, God soul, and God, and all that. Yeah, there. I expected him to do that, but Key isn't
Yeah, I
that bad
think
as well.
that's an interesting thing to point out there. Imagine a scenario where you're playing gods thinking, oh, I've blocked this board and there's no way my opponent can play anything, and then they just come with an oh hooking god. So yeah, that's worth noting there.
Yeah, we have some words like that, which is really quite interesting. Like word like, when you play lived or lived rather, LIVED. You feel like, I've blocked it. But it might interest you to know that it takes an O, you know, it takes an O as well. So it's just like
Yeah,
this
live
words,
too.
God's soul, God's son, and then, yeah, and we see a
All
challenge
right, we're
there for that.
saying a challenge. Yes,
Yeah,
parfait there is valid, and that's
ah,
going to be 5 extra
he hasn't
points
tested
for
that.
Joseph.
Yeah, that's a smoothie. So he hasn't tested cafe. It's a smoothie.
I mean,
Oh,
it's
God.
Scrabble. I've challenged goat before. I'm not going to lie. I saw it as go at. I'm like, what is G? What is go at? So maybe it's not clicking that it's parfait that he's familiar with.
Yeah,
And it's like, what's perfect?
yeah, or
Do you
maybe he doesn't know
understand?
that it's this spell.
Yeah, that's true. So we're going to see 5 extra points for that play. All right, OBE coming down for Nika, 24 points. The current scores now is Joseph's 148 has 128, and back to Joseph now with COLURIG. The board is pretty choked up. I'm sure he can still squeeze out a couple of points if he looks in the right side of this board. Right now, he has Lorik available for him here. He plays a lot of tiles. The only downside is it allows a play down here, and if um, Nika has an H, that would be really devastating to play a CH word down there. But Lori could score really well, and he also has options like GORI in that same spot too, each scoring 28 or 32 points. So let's see what he can come up with in this turn. And if he's completely missing the God Soul hook, then that really limits what he can do on this board. Plays like Fujio here are very uninspiring, just opening up way too much for your opponent. So he really has to gunny the God Soul hook here to score anything reasonable and keep the board blocked. All right. We are having Passfine sort out an issue currently, and I'm sure as soon as she has it all set up, we'll have her joining us back on stream soon. Okay, we're seeing logic. That's side of the board entirely evaded me. I was not even looking towards that side. Logic there scoring 22 points seems really okay if you're not seeing the God so hook. All right, Nika now it's Peeltel. And we've seen him arrange peel on his rack. And one nice spot for that would be right here, scoring about 34 points, I believe. So I'm curious to see if that was where he was hoping to play it, and that's exactly what he was thinking. And we're seeing him make the top choice here on this turn. Peel scoring 34 points, leaving ELT. He trails by less than 50 points before this move, but after that is inching closer to catching up and playing out a lot of tiles to either pick the last blank or more synergic tiles in the bag. And oof, Joseph there struggling with three R's and a V and a U. We're definitely going to see an exchange in this turn, I think. Although I think FUROR should be valid, and maybe he wants to play that. I could be wrong, but I think that might be a valid word. Oh, yeah, FUROR is something worth considering. And if you want, you could also play JUROR through the O in logic. Apologies there for my chicken scratch, as I would call it. But at least you have an idea of where I'm talking about on the board. So, yeah, Jura there or FUROR scores pretty well, and he uses up 2 R's. But the same going for FUR instead, leaving JUVRR. Not the best of leaves, but I guess playing it safe and just playing what you're sure of is the way to go. Now it's back to Nika with Letumay. This looks a bit promising, even if there are no bingos available. It looks really promising for a lot of scoring options. And in fact, we see he knows the YERE hook, but in fact, there was a much better play. I think it's impressive enough that he gone into this hook and made this play already. But Etima, let me see if I can get the board right. ETYA here scores over 50 points, and that was such a lovely move. But still, MAY there still does a lot for him, and wasting no time, Joseph makes the move of JUT. Yeah, there weren't a lot of options for him on that turn, unless he wanted to go back to playing the Juro move, which he had available in the previous turn. But JUT scores well, keeps the ball a bit close, and I may be worried about a W coming towards that region beneath JO. A W here would score really well. Maybe just AW would score nearly 40, I believe. But I mean, he has to go for his best move there, scoring the highest, and just hope for the best. Nika now with LAUNTAD. All right, he has bingos available for him on this turn. The seven letter word lunated and undealt. plays perfectly beneath the board on this lane, hooking ALU for undealt or ALL for lunated. And with the scores being Nicka's 197 to Joseph's 227, a 64 or 63 points play here would, bring him into the lead, and things could look really promising for from there. Okay, I think Passfine is back here, and hello, Passfine, are you with us? I will seem still be experiencing some issues there, but as soon as we're able to, I'm sure Passfine will be joining us as soon as possible. All right, a miss there from Nika playing dual instead, which is still really reasonable provided you're able to spot your bingo and waste no time. Joseph maybe trying to keep his lead and just tailoring the board, keeping things closed. He goes for the To be honest, there weren't a lot of options for him either way in that turn. And Nika now with INETHHR. We're seeing the ties are skewed right now, but I'm sure as soon as it's done recording the scores, maybe it would arrange them right back up. Meanwhile, taking a peek at Joseph's rack, he has found the last blank in this game, or the second blank, I must say. And I think he has Nirvana arranged already, which would fit right above the D here in dual. And it's very unlikely that Nika would be blocking that spot as we see him play HE. All right, HE has been committed, and Joseph, I'm sure, would waste no time playing Nirvana for 71 points. That was a very, very nice find from him that we saw. He um, spotted that bingo immediately, picked the styles, and for the highest rated player in Liberia, I expected nothing less. And it's very impressive to see him showing his metal here. And we're seeing a challenge from Nika, and that was going to be 5 extra points. With that, the scores are Joseph's 325 to Nika's 248. The miss of undealt or lunated at the bottom of the board seems to be really costly right now, as the gap is widening. And right now with TINRHLO, it's very all right. With that, we're seeing Joseph replenish his tiles, and you see the Z and the S with two vowels there. It's definitely going to score really nicely next turn. But it's Nicka's turn now, and um, he has just very little options, but at least they open up the board a bit more for him. Right now, he could play Thurn down here, and at least this move would give him a floating C and a H to bingo next turn if he has the right styles. Because currently you can see that the bottom of the board is completely cut off as there are no hooks here to hook V. So this side of the board is closed down completely, and he has to start scheming, opening up the rest of the board in case he has a bingo for himself. I think both players are trying to tally the scores, make sure there are no issues as regards that. But here I can confirm, all things being equal, the score should be Joseph's 325 to Nicka's 248. Anyone just joining, this is round 7 of Scrabblemania 3.0 happening in Monrovia, sorry, Liberia. This year we have a $6,000 prize pool, the highest it has ever been, and the winner would go home with $2,000. I'm sure the last edition winner, Charles from Ghana, is looking to defend his title, but we are having top players from Nigeria, from Liberia, and the rest of the world also looking to clinch that win. I'm sure it's not going to be easy for anyone. All right, Thorn comes down for Nika there, opening up a lot more options for him next turn. And it's back to Joseph with WZEENST. Right now, he has a 45-point play available for him on this turn. As soon as the board rotates, yeah, okay. He has SEZ here, just a simple three-letter word play scoring 45 points. And it really doesn't give back as much because, fine, you're leaving the E and the Z as floaters, but I mean, it's not the worst of scenarios if a bingo comes through those lanes. So SAZ scoring 45 points, taking his lead further would be something worth considering. Right now, there are still two S's on scene, so you might as well play the S you have and score as much point as you can on this third. And if it wants to keep things really, really close, I think EW here is something he might consider because after this move, it's going to be very difficult being going on that lane except you have like a TR or something to play through the T here. And I think he was considering that for a second, and it's still I think it's still really good for him because if he plays EW, he leaves SETZN, and the SEZ move would still be available for him if he plays the EW. So I'm curious to see if he would be blocking the board or just going for as much points as he can on this turn. I wasn't even looking at Nicka's rack the whole time. If SEZ was played, then I believe we would have seen Tiltons come down. But with the move of Hyun, that completely blocks off the bingos that Nika would have had because he had Tiltons here and oops, sorry about that. Tiltons was available through the T in turn, and even Hiltons was possible. But with the move of Hyun, both moves are unavailable right now, and I'm sure that must be such a crusher for Nika as he was banking on that spot. All right, we see him go for IT instead, leaving the ing leave that a lot of Scrabble players, like to leave because there are so many bingos ending with that combination. But still, with the dynamics of the board, ing bingos. Okay, with the last move now, at least another spot was open. So I think that was a really nice play by Nika there, as there is this spot available now for a bingo. So it's back to Joseph now to decide on what is going to do on this turn. He has COZETES. Really nice styles there, but what can he do with them? All right, we see him arrange COZES, and I believe he would play that. Oops, sorry. Let me get that corrected. He could play that here, COZES, right here. This further blocks the board. I'm sure he's worried about the move he made of Hyun because this spot here is still open. But COZES scores really, really well, extends his lead, and I'm sure he's feeling pretty confident about that. Nika now has GNILBIS. All right, we're seeing a setup here that might come back and bite him back. I mean, from his perspective, he has an S and he's just trying to keep the board as open as possible. If he plays, just like what he did here, if he plays Boyle and his opponent doesn't have the S, then that means Joseph would be forced to maybe short score and try and block that spot. So he's trying to create as much imbalance in the game, but with the tiles that Joseph has, I believe he should be bingoing on this turn. All right, we see Joseph arrange on teams, and wow, I'm just noticing there were not enough tiles left in the bag when Boyle was made. That was such a blunder from Nika there, playing Boyle and emptying the bag, and now he has only six tiles, not even up to seven, and he can't even reply with a bingo of his own. That must be so devastating. Seeing a challenge from Nickadean on teams is indeed too was available on that turn. What an interesting turn of events there. On teams would have played either ways on top of the board, but with the Boyle opening, Home team scores so well there, and Nicka would be unable to reply with a bingo of his own since he has not just six stars left, but the bag was emptied on the boy turn. That would bring the final scores to Joseph's 490 to Nika's 298. Interesting to think how this game went up until the middle of the game. The scores were still around Nika's 248 to Joseph's 249. But as soon as Nirvana came down and later on Cozies and down on teams, there was not a lot for Nika to do. I'm sure the heel move must have been really devastating as he had tiltings right here in that turn for Nika to get back into the game, or even Hilton's here. But the heel move completely disrupted that from happening. And that brings us to the end of round eight. Oh, sorry, round seven rather. Make sure you stay tuned because round eight would be on your screens very, very soon.